Mr. Speaker, May the 31st today is the one-year anniversary of one of the largest single flood events in the history of our province. For the thousands of Manitobans that the Premier sacrificed in the artificial flood last year, they trusted the Premier to fully compensate them and to reconstruct their communities. And now the Premier and his government no longer acknowledge the artificial nature of the flooding, but deny it. And because of delays in provincial help, many are considering a class action suit because they feel so wronged by this NDP government.
Rightly so.
I asked the Premier, why is he reneging on these promises of timely, fair compensation to those he sacrificed in the artificial flood?
We are actually increasing the number of appraisers and people available to settle the claims. There is over 30,000 claims that have been made during this flood, which is 3 times more than the 1997 flood, which was the flood of record until this spring. So 3 times more claims, many more issues that have to be addressed, and we have dedicated more resources to addressing this flood than at any other time in history of this province in terms of the kinds of things that need to be done. $650 million of support has flowed from this government. There's been a $50 million recovery from the federal government up to now. We expect them to increase that shortly. But of the $650 million put out there, $600 million has come from the province of Manitoba. And we have done a number, as I've said earlier, unique programs. We will continue to work with people affected by that flood until they're safely back home. We will continue to ensure that the lake goes down as predicted when we built the additional channel, and that will provide long-term stability to the people on Lake Manitoba and Lake St. Martin.
Mr. Speaker, the hyperbole of this government in relation to the flood is sad. Almost every day the government gets up to say the real problem is that there are 30,000 claims, as if the problem were too big to solve. First of all, when I asked in estimates, the Manitoba Agricultural Services Corporation indicated that they estimate less than 2,000. I suspect the real reason the minister says and the Premier says there's so many is because the government broke its promise to have one program and broke it up among several departments and among programs A, B, C, D, and on and on. I asked the Premier, and people have many claims, I asked the Premier, when will the NDP government come clean and provide timely, fair compensation to those whose lives were so profoundly damaged by this artificial flood last year?
The answer to the member's question is every single day claims are being processed, and $650 million of compensation has flowed in Manitoba up to now. And every single day there are more claims being processed. And if anybody feels that their claim has not been adequately addressed by the payments they've received, we've put in place an independent appeal commissioner in the person of Ron Bell, a person widely regarded for his experience in municipal government and a rural person, farmer. So we put in place an independent person to deal with any concerns about the compensation that people have received. And we put in place additional staff, including appraisers, to process claims as rapidly as possible.
Mr. Speaker, every day the government is processing claims which should have been sorted out last August, September, October, and they're still dealing with them because they failed to put in the resources initially. The anniversary date of May the 31st could have been very, very different if the Premier had handled the flood aftermath differently. The Premier and his government promised a single program for all, but instead provided a confusing array of programs with too many gaps. They promised 100% compensation to many, but have provided it to so few. I ask the Premier, why has he failed to compensate those who were sacrificed in the flood of 2011 in a timely, fair, and honourable way?
Speaker, I thank the member for the question, and he knows full well that the programs we put in place, 100% funded by the province of Manitoba. We did not wait. We did not wait in the prevention of the flood when we built additional dikes to protect communities. We did not wait for the federal government to agree to cost share them. We did not wait when we put the additional programs in place to compensate people and to recover their land. If we would have waited, nothing would have been done. The reality is, Mr. Speaker, we have flowed over $650 million of resources without waiting for other levels of government to participate. That's quite different than when the member opposite was at the federal government, and it was up to 2 years after the '97 flood before his federal government decided to come in and provide support. We've moved much more rapidly, we've moved expeditiously, and we have moved with programs never seen before in the province of Manitoba, and where there is dissatisfaction with those programs, we've put in place an independent appeals commissioner, Mr. Speaker.